Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's been about 2 weeks since the track day, or 2 weekends or whatever. I had some family stuff to do last weekend, so I'm just taking a look over the car, and I noticed the oil leak when I got home, and I could have swore that it was the oil pump. Right down in this corner right here, there was oil, but I've since taken brake clean and sprayed it all in this area and took the car for a ride. And you can see now it's starting to get wet up in here, right up in here, and here. Which leads me to believe that it is the cam seal on this side. So what I'm going to do is pull off the valve cover. For me, I have to remove this coil with this Allen key, because there's a Allen bolt underneath of this, and one here. Pull the plugs out, or the coils out. Take off the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 valve cover bolts. Just flip that aside, and then maybe take off the timing cover on the side, which is 1, 2, 10 millimeters. So let me pull this off real quick, and then we'll inspect the area to see if it's wet. Alright, so I got the valve cover and the little side timing cover pulled off, and you really can't see anything from the side because you have the back cover on. But inspecting up here, the surface here, where it looks like it's coming from, because you could kind of see it's running down right in this area here, coming straight down. That's why I thought it was the oil pump. But I sprayed all this down with brake clean yesterday, so it was nice and dry. But then I drove the car for probably like a half hour or whatever, so it's leaking pretty good. So I really didn't want to get into all this, but I guess we're going to end up changing the cam seals. So while I'm at it, I might as well just change the timing belt, the water pump, and everything else. Best thing about that is I bought this timing belt from AutoZone, lifetime warranty, so it's just going to be free to change all that. I just got to give them back this old one and the water pump and stuff. So I guess moving on, I'm just going to have to loosen up the alternator bolt right here, the tensioner bolt. It's a 14. Slide that forward, pop that belt off, come down here. Right down here there's a little black plug. You pull this out, and then you can get to the tensioner bolt. Loosen that up, then I'll slide this off. So let me take care of that real quick, and then we'll pick the video up from there. So I'm not 100% sure where I left off, but I took off the alternator belt just by loosening this 12 and using a pry bar and prying that forward. So the belt's off. Jacked the car up, took off the driver's side wheel. I supported the oil pan with a 2x4 and the jack. And then the top mount is loose, so I gotta take off this side. I loosened the timing belt tensioner, which is a 14, right above the crank pulley. It's usually covered with this little plastic grommet or rubber grommet. So, getting ready to take the crank pulley bolt off. Do yourself a favor and go to Advanced Auto Parts and get this. I believe it's CTA is the brand. The numbers on it are 1065. It's a 19 millimeter, and the bottom number is CR-MO. It's a weighted 19 millimeter. Corded impact can get this off, no problem. So I'm about to pop that off, and I'm going to take this, I believe it's 17 out, take this mount all the way off, and then take off the lower cover, and then I guess I'm going to get ready to drain the coolant. Come on. Alright, so I just pulled off the lower timing cover, and right here there's like a shit ton of oil. But looking at it, I'm tracing it up, and it only comes up to this bolt here. There's no oil above it at all, and it looks like it's just trailing from right out of it down. I don't know if you can see that. I rub my finger on the bottom, there's oil. So this is a ACL high volume oil pump, and I believe it's leaking out that bolt hole. There was never anything in there, nothing screws in there. I know this oil pump works on the H22 also, so I'm thinking I'm gonna find a 10mm bolt is what it looks like, and I'm gonna put some RTV on it and just thread it in there and seal that up, because there's a lot of oil down here and I'm not too happy about that. That may be where I'm leaking from, but I'm gonna clean this up with some brake clean, put that bolt in there. Hopefully that seals it up. So I'll put that bolt in right there with the RTV. Even if that isn't a problem, it's not gonna hurt anything because nothing went there. That hole right there next to it is what the timing cover bolted into. So I cleaned off some of this oil. I ended up taking the mount off, removing the timing belt, using an adjustable wrench to hold the cam right here, loosened up the, I believe they were 12s to get the cam gear off. Make sure you don't drop the keyways. So I found the oil leak, I believe. You can see all this oil, pretty much this whole side of the head here, or block here. It's coming from right under there. There's a tad bit on the intake side, so I'm just going to end up changing both of them anyway. Alright, so I got the cam caps off. It's this 4 10mm bolts. The longer bolt are the ones on the inside here and here. So basically, I cleaned off the cap really well with some brake clean. You want it dry as possible. And right now I just have some brake clean sprayed on these and have them sitting in there just in case any oil leaks out. I'm going to do one more final wipe before I install the cam seal. So basically, this is the cam seal right here. You can see the outside of this one was the exhaust one. I don't know if you could tell how shiny it is, but that's all oil that was leaking past it. So basically on the inside right here, I'm just going to put a very thin coat of oil, and also on here to slide it back on. Alright, so if you could see, there's like a little groove cut out that these sit flush up against on both sides. So those are pressed all the way in. Make sure when you put the cap back on, you have the I1 for the intake side, and then you have the E1 for the exhaust side, and the arrow is always pointing towards the cam gear. So I'm just going to get a rubber mallet and tap these down. It's 7.2 for the bolts, and then we should be good to go. So I got the cam seals on. The bolts are tightened down to 7.2. I drained the coolant and I took off the water pump. Coolant puked all over the place when I pulled that out. I was expecting it to, so I sprayed all this down because I don't want the neighborhood dogs to die, or my own. So once this dries up, I'll clean up the water pump surface and get ready to reinstall that. But I just remembered the LS engine that came out of here had AEM cam gears on it, and that's just sitting. So in the meantime, I'm going to go pull those off that engine and I'll put those on here. So I got the AEM cam gears pulled off the car. I'm throwing these on because these are half the weight of the OEM ones, and it's just less rotational mass. But I got all the water pump area cleaned up. I went through with brake clean and cleaned all this little there you go, cleaned this whole little lip all the way around, all up in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a thin layer of RTV and go all the way around the mating surface. I have the new water pump right here. The gasket's already on, and then once I get that, I'm going to put that on, tighten down the 5 bolts. I don't have a torque spec, but you don't want those to be loose. So the water pump's back on, all torqued down. I'm not going to put coolant in this motor until tomorrow because I put Honda Bond in it, so I just want it to sit and fully cure. So right now we're going to move on to the back timing cover. As you can see from the shine, this thing's covered in oil, this gasket's covered in oil, so I'm going to clean all that up and install this back on the motor, and then we'll get ready to put the cam gears on, and then we'll get ready to get this thing in time. Alright, so a couple tricks that I learned doing this a while now. There's a little arrow right here on the oil pump, and there's a line right there on the crank pulley. So if you take something that's straight and you line that up, bring it straight down, and if it's in line, you know you're perfectly at top dead center here. Up on the top, I'm not sure if VTECs have this, but on the LS you can put a 4mm rod through here, and there's a hole in the cam on both of them. So I have a screwdriver in one and a punch in the other. They're probably like 3mm, so they're a little loose. But as you can see, the cam gears are perfectly in line. I can take this and show you. Perfectly in line. Both up hashes are facing up. So I am good to go there. So I'm going to get the timing belt on. If you need to see how to put the timing belt on, I have another video on. It's probably my second most popular video if you just check under the popular videos. So I'm going to throw this timing belt on real quick, and then hopefully we get this thing buttoned up in a few minutes. Alright, so the timing belt is back on. Crank pulley's back on. The lower timing cover. Everything's looking good so far. Got to get this upper cover back on. Valve cover back on. Just throwing in some new spark plugs because I already pulled out the old ones. And I have a few sets laying around. So put those in. Rather have them brand new than old. But next clip, the car probably be back on the ground. Alright, so the car is back together. I didn't put any coolant in it because I want to give that Honda Bond at least overnight to dry. I posted a video how to change the timing belt before, but this is just what I was working on today, so sorry if it's repeat content. It's super hot today, pretty exhausted. I've been out here for a couple hours, so time to go take a shower, whatnot. But if you have any questions about this process and you checked out the other video for the timing belt and it didn't help you out, feel free to ask down at the bottom. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Back at you with the realness.